The unexpected guardian. Sarah Chen had always believed that the most dangerous thing about working maintenance on orbital station Delta was the possibility of dropping her wrench into Earth's atmosphere. That was before she met something that shouldn't exist. The warning lights had gone off during her regular shift. A micrometeorite impact on the station's outer hull. Routine stuff. She'd done this repair 100 times before, suited up in her EVA gear, magnetic boots keeping her anchored to the station's skin as she worked. The Earth hung below her, a brilliant blue marble wrapped in wispy clouds. "Control, this is Chen. Beginning hull assessment," she reported, her breath fogging the inside of her helmet slightly. The damage didn't look too bad. A small puncture, nothing the smart patch couldn't handle. But as she moved closer, something caught her eye. A shimmer in the void, like starlight bending around a shape that shouldn't be there. At first, she thought it was space debris, maybe a piece of the meteor that had struck the station. But debris didn't move against the solar wind, and it definitely didn't bleed light. The creature uncloaked slowly, as if it was too weak to maintain its camouflage. Its body was crystalline, translucent in places, with what looked like streams of plasma flowing through internal channels. It was massive, easily the size of a shuttle, with long, graceful limbs that reminded Sarah of a dragon from Earth's mythology, if dragons were made of living crystal and stellar matter. It was also clearly injured. A deep crack ran along its side, leaking stellar energy into space like luminescent blood. "Control, I'm going to need you to switch to secure channel," Sarah said, her heart pounding. There were protocols for first contact situations, very specific protocols that basically amounted to don't engage, report immediately, and wait for the experts. But the creature's eyes met hers. Actual eyes, glowing like captured nebula. And she saw pain there. Intelligence. Fear. "Chen, what's your status?" Control's voice crackled in her ear. "Just some unusual readings. Probably equipment malfunction. Going radio silent for detailed diagnostics." The lie felt heavy on her tongue, but something told her that broadcasting the existence of this being would be a terrible mistake. The creature watched her, drifting closer. In the vacuum of space, Sarah couldn't hear it, but she felt something. A vibration through her suit, a sensation in her mind that wasn't quite sound but carried meaning nonetheless. It was trying to communicate. Sarah reached for her tool belt, where she kept her emergency repair kit. Inside was a canister of specialized nanites designed to fix hull breaches. They weren't meant for living tissue, but they were programmed to restore structural integrity to whatever they were applied to. It was a risk, but something told her it was the right thing to do. "I don't know if you can understand me," she said, knowing her voice wouldn't carry in the vacuum, but hoping the intention behind her words somehow would. "But I want to help." The creature's eyes flickered, and Sarah felt another wave of that strange, not quite sound. Understanding. Permission. Trust. With careful movements, she pushed off from the station's hull, using her suit's thrusters to close the distance. Up close, the being was even more magnificent. Its crystalline body contained what looked like a galaxy in miniature, stars and nebulae swirling beneath its transparent surface. Sarah activated the nanite canister and applied it to the crack in the creature's side. The smart particles went to work immediately, analyzing the unique structure of the being's body and adapting their repair protocols. The crack began to seal, stellar energy no longer leaking into space. The creature's eyes brightened, and Sarah felt a wave of gratitude wash over her, so powerful it brought tears to her eyes. Then, without warning, it began to fade from view, its natural camouflage returning as its strength recovered. Before it vanished completely, it reached out with one crystalline limb and touched her helmet gently. In that moment, Sarah's mind filled with images, stars being born, civilizations rising and falling, and ancient beings like this one watching over it all, guardians of life's slow march toward the stars. When she returned to the station, Sarah knew her life had changed forever. She had helped something miraculous, something that wasn't supposed to exist. And as she finished her shift, filing a deliberately vague report about a successful hull repair. She couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. She was right. The next morning, she woke to alarms blaring throughout the station, and an announcement that made her blood run cold. Attention all personnel. The station is now under quarantine by order of the Galactic Concordat. All civilians are to remain in their quarters until further notice. Sarah looked out her viewport just in time to see 3 sleek ships of clearly alien design drop out of faster-than-light travel, their hulls gleaming with technologies humanity had only dreamed of. They took up position around the station, like predators surrounding prey, and Sarah knew they weren't here by chance. They were here for what she had found, for what she had helped. And somehow, she knew this was going to be about much more than just one human's act of kindness toward a wounded stranger. Diplomatic chaos. The aliens that emerged from the sleek ships looked almost human, except for their iridescent skin that shifted colors like oil on water. They moved with an unsettling precision that spoke of centuries of evolution beyond Earth's gravity well. The leader of the group, distinguished by elaborate markings that spiraled across their face, introduced themselves as High Arbiter Ven of the Galactic Concordat. Sarah watched from her designated seat in Station Delta's main conference room as Station Commander Rodriguez tried to maintain diplomatic composure. The room was tense with the presence of both human security personnel and the Concordat's guards, whose armor seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "We detected a Class Omega energy signature in this sector," Arbiter Ven stated, their voice carrying harmonic undertones that made Sarah's teeth ache. "Our treaties may be new, but they are quite clear about reporting such anomalies." Rodriguez straightened in his chair. "With all due respect, Arbiter, we're still learning about your classification systems. We had no way of knowing. A stellar sentinel appeared at your station." Ven cut in, their skin flushing a deep purple. "The first confirmed sighting in over 10,000 years, and your maintenance worker treated it like a common repair job." All eyes turned to Sarah. She felt her face grow hot, but met their gazes steadily. "I saw a wounded being and helped it. That's what humans do." The Arbiter's guards shifted uncomfortably, their hands tightening on weapons that looked more like sculptures than guns. Ven's skin rippled with patterns of agitation. "What you helped," they said slowly, "was the last surviving member of a species that once held the power to reshape solar systems. The Sentinels were peacekeepers of the ancient galaxy until they became something else, something that had to be stopped." Sarah remembered the images the creature had shared. The vast sweep of cosmic history, the rise and fall of civilizations. "You mean until they were betrayed," she said, the words coming from a place of certainty she didn't quite understand. The conference room's atmosphere shifted palpably. Ven's skin went completely still, a sign Sarah would later learn indicated extreme shock in their species. "How much did it show you?" Ven demanded, their harmonics sharp enough to make several humans wince. Before Sarah could answer, new alarms blared. Lieutenant Park burst into the room, tablet in hand. "Commander, we've got multiple ships dropping out of FTL. At least 3 different species, all heavily armed." Rodriguez swore under his breath. "How did they find out so quickly?" "Because they've been watching," Ven said grimly. "Waiting. For 10 millennia, every spacefaring race has maintained surveillance networks looking for signs of the Sentinels. Now one has surfaced, and humanity's actions have sparked a diplomatic crisis." The station's viewport showed the truth of their words as more ships appeared, elegant organic-looking vessels that could only be the Meridian Collective, crystalline structures that might have been ships or living beings themselves, and ominous dark shapes that seemed to bend space around them. "They're all here for the Sentinel," Sarah realized aloud. "But why? What are they afraid of?" Ven turned to her, their skin now a deep, stormy gray. "Not afraid, human. Hungry. The Sentinels possess technologies and knowledge that could elevate a civilization beyond its rivals. Some want to capture it. Others want to destroy it before their enemies can claim it. And some," they paused, their skin showing traces of what might have been shame. Some of us are here to finish what we started 10,000 years ago. Commander Rodriguez stood, his voice firm. This station is under Earth jurisdiction. We don't recognize any authority, Toe. Your jurisdiction ended the moment the Sentinel made contact, then interrupted. The only question now is whether humanity will step aside or be swept aside. Sarah felt a familiar vibration, a sensation she had first experienced in the void. The Sentinel was near, watching, waiting. She realized with sudden clarity why it had chosen to reveal itself to her, to humanity. They were new to the galactic stage, unburdened by ancient feuds and betrayals. No, she said, standing as well. Every head turned toward her. The question is whether humanity will repeat the mistakes of the past or forge a different path. The station shuddered as the first communication demands from the gathered alien fleets began flooding in. On screens around the conference room, faces and forms of a dozen different species appeared, all talking at once, all making demands or threats. Commander Rodriguez looked at Sarah, then at the chaos unfolding around them. Ms. Chen, since you're the one who got us into this diplomatic nightmare, perhaps you have suggestions for getting us out. Sarah watched the alien fleets maneuvering outside, each taking position to either defend or attack, depending on how events unfolded. She thought about the trust the Sentinel had shown her, the history it had shared, and the choice humanity now faced. Actually, sir, she said, feeling the phantom touch of crystalline fingers on her helmet, I think I do. But you're probably not going to like it. The station's lights flickered, and for a moment, Sarah saw a familiar shimmer in the space beyond the viewport, a reminder that they weren't facing this crisis alone. Humanity had been chosen for a reason, and she was beginning to understand why. The question was whether the rest of the galaxy was ready for what came next. The truth unveiled. Sarah's plan was either brilliant or suicidal, possibly both. As she stood in the station's airlock chamber, preparing for another EVA, she could feel the weight of multiple alien civilizations watching her every move. This is madness. Commander Rodriguez's voice crackled through her helmet comm. We have 14 different alien fleets out there, half of them ready to start an interstellar war, and you want to go for a spacewalk. Trust me, Sarah replied, checking her suit's seals. The Sentinel showed me something out there. Something they all need to see. The airlock cycled, and Sarah stepped out into the void. The scene before her was both beautiful and terrifying. Dozens of alien ships hung in space around Station Delta, their designs as varied as the species that crewed them. Energy readings flickered across her suit's displays as weapons remained locked in charge. I know you're here, Sarah spoke into the vacuum, not with her voice but with her mind, reaching out the way the Sentinel had shown her. They need to understand. Please. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, like a curtain being drawn back from reality itself, the Sentinel appeared. Its crystalline form dwarfed Sarah, casting prismatic light across her suit. But this time, it wasn't alone. Space itself seemed to ripple as more figures emerged from whatever dimension they inhabited. 5, 10, then dozens of crystalline forms appeared, each unique but unmistakably Sentinels. They had never been extinct. They had been waiting, watching, hidden from a galaxy that had turned against them. Sarah's comm system exploded with chatter in 100 alien languages. She could imagine the panic on the bridges of those mighty warships as they realized they were surrounded by the very beings they had feared for millennia. The first Sentinel, her friend, reached out and touched her helmet again. This time, the connection was stronger, clearer. Through their linked consciousness, Sarah understood everything. They never wanted to rule. Sarah broadcast on all frequencies, her voice carrying the weight of ancient memories. The Sentinels were created by the first civilization to achieve consciousness in our galaxy. They were meant to be guardians, helping young species survive their technological adolescence. But something went wrong. Images flowed through her mind. Civilizations growing too quickly, seizing technologies they weren't ready for, destroying themselves and others in their greed. The Sentinels had tried to intervene, to slow the spread of dangerous knowledge, to guide species toward wisdom before power. The great powers of that era saw them as obstacles. Sarah continued, feeling the truth of it in her bones. They couldn't accept that some knowledge, some powers, had to be earned through cultural evolution, not just technological advancement. So they conspired to destroy the Sentinels, claiming they were tyrants holding back progress. High Arbiter Ven's voice cut through the calm static. If what you say is true, why reveal themselves now? Why to humans? Sarah smiled inside her helmet. Because humanity did something unique. When we found one of them injured, we didn't try to capture it. We didn't try to steal its secrets. We just helped, asking nothing in return. We proved we could put compassion before power. The Sentinel's touch conveyed more. Images of humanity's potential futures. Some were dark, paths of destruction and extinction. But others showed humanity becoming something new, something that could help heal the rifts in galactic civilization. They're offering us a choice, Sarah announced. Not just to humans, but to all species. The Sentinels are willing to return, not as controllers or obstacles, but as teachers. They'll share their knowledge, but only as fast as we prove we can handle it responsibly. The space around Station Delta hummed with energy as the Sentinels began to glow, their crystalline bodies channeling stellar forces in mesmerizing patterns. It was a display of power, but also of beauty. A reminder that technology at its highest levels was indistinguishable from art. The question isn't whether humanity will step aside, Sarah said, echoing Ven's earlier words. The question is whether the galaxy is ready to step forward. Together. Through her mental link with the Sentinel, Sarah felt the ripples of reaction spreading through the alien fleets. Fear warred with wonder, ancient grudges with new possibilities. The next few moments would determine whether the galaxy descended into chaos or embraced a new era of guided growth. And somewhere in the cosmic dance of ships and Sentinels, a maintenance worker from Earth floated in her EVA suit, hoping she had done enough to help the galaxy take its next step toward the stars. Humanity's choice. The next 12 hours aboard Station Delta became a crash course in interstellar politics, as Earth's governments scrambled to respond to the situation. The station's conference room had been transformed into an impromptu galactic forum. Holographic representatives from a dozen worlds flickered around the table, while the Sentinels maintained their vigil outside, their crystalline forms casting ever-changing patterns of light through the viewport. Sarah sat between Commander Rodriguez and High Arbiter Ven, watching the debate unfold. The Meridian Collective's ambassador, a being of pure energy contained within an ornate mechanical shell, was speaking. The humans cannot be trusted with this responsibility. The ambassador's translated voice resonated. They are centuries behind most civilizations here. Their technology is primitive, their politics divisive, their history violent. That's precisely why we're the right choice, Sarah countered, surprising herself with her own boldness. We know what it's like to be at the beginning, to face challenges without shortcuts, to learn from our mistakes. The dark shapes that had been lurking at the edge of the station's sensor range finally revealed themselves. The Void Consortium, beings who had evolved in the space between stars. Their representative's voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. The human speaks truth, it whispered. Our civilizations have grown corrupt with power. We hoard technologies we barely understand, wage wars with forces that could shatter reality itself. Perhaps it is time for a reset. High Arbiter Ven's skin shifted through complex patterns as they considered this. The Sentinels offer us a chance to rebuild trust, to relearn what we have forgotten in our race for dominance. But it must be a collective decision. Commander Rodriguez stood, his military bearing a stark contrast to the exotic beings around him. Earth hasn't even unified its own governments yet. We still fight over resources, ideology, territory. How can we be expected to help guide galactic civilization? The answer came not in words, but in a pulse of energy that rippled through the station. The sentinels outside began to move in complex patterns, their crystalline bodies weaving light into what seemed to be a living map of the galaxy. Through windows and view screens, everyone watched as points of light began to appear. Thousands, then millions of them. Those are worlds, Sarah realized aloud, the knowledge flowing through her lingering connection to the sentinels. Worlds that destroyed themselves after achieving spaceflight. Civilizations that reached for the stars before they were ready. The map shifted, showing different points of light. Fewer, but steadier, more enduring. And these, she continued, are the worlds that made it. The ones that learned to balance progress with wisdom. Humanity stands at a crossroads, High Arbiter Ven translated, their skin now a deep, thoughtful blue. You have not yet reached the point of no return. You can still choose your path. The station's sensors suddenly blared warnings. A new ship had appeared, massive beyond comprehension, its surface a perfect mirror that reflected the stars themselves. The precursors, the legendary first civilization, creators of the Sentinels, had arrived. Their message was simple, transmitted directly into the minds of all present. The cycle begins anew. Humanity has been chosen not for their strength or their technology, but for their potential to learn from the mistakes of others. The question now is, will the older races accept guidance from their younger siblings? Sarah felt the weight of history pressing down on her shoulders. The choice wasn't just humanity's, it was every species, every civilization's, accept a slower, guided path to advancement, or continue the dangerous race toward power without wisdom. Commander Rodriguez's comm unit chimed with an incoming transmission from Earth. The chamber fell silent as he read it, his expression unreadable. Finally, he looked up. The United Nations Security Council has reached a preliminary decision, he announced. Earth accepts the role of intermediary between the Sentinels and galactic civilization, with one condition. The precursor ship pulsed with interest, waiting. We ask that all species be given the same opportunity we were, to prove themselves through actions, not words, to demonstrate wisdom through choice, not necessity. The crystalline forms of the Sentinels began to pulse with harmonic energies that filled the space around the station. Through their shared connection, Sarah felt their approval, their hope. The cycle of destruction could be broken, but only if all species chose to break it together. As the assembled representatives began to signal their responses, Sarah realized that this wasn't just a choice about the future of humanity or even the galaxy. It was a choice about what kind of universe they wanted to create, one ruled by power and fear, or one guided by wisdom and cooperation. A new dawn. One by one, the great powers of the galaxy made their choice. The Meridian Collective's energy being dimmed its aura in submission. The Void Consortium's shadows swirled in acceptance. High Arbiter Ven's skin rippled with patterns that spoke of hope tinged with uncertainty. Even the most militant species recognized that the old way of endless competition for technological supremacy had brought them to the brink of destruction. Sarah stood at the viewport, watching as the Sentinels began to move. Their crystalline forms arranged themselves in a vast geometric pattern around Station Delta, creating what looked like a three-dimensional mandala of living light. The precursor ship remained motionless, its mirrored surface reflecting the spectacular display. So what happens now? Commander Rodriguez asked, standing beside her. How does humanity guide a galaxy full of civilizations that are centuries ahead of us? We don't guide them, Sarah replied, understanding flowing through her connection with the Sentinels. We remind them of what it means to be young, to be uncertain, to make mistakes, and learn from them. We show them what they've forgotten. The station's systems suddenly came alive with new data as the Sentinels began their work. Through every screen and holographic display, images flowed, the history of life in the galaxy, but not of wars and technological achievements. Instead, they showed moments of cooperation, of species helping each other survive, of civilizations choosing to preserve rather than destroy. They're rewriting the narrative, High Arbiter Ven observed, their skin shifting to a color Sarah had never seen before. Not the history itself, but how we remember it, how we learn from it. The precursor ship pulsed once, and in every mind aboard the station, a vision appeared. A galaxy where advancement was measured not in weapons or faster-than-light drives, but in the ability to coexist, to share knowledge safely, to help others climb the ladder of civilization without letting them fall. There will be resistance, the Void Consortium's representative whispered. Many will not wish to slow their advancement, to share their secrets, to wait for others to catch up. Then we'll face that challenge together, Sarah said. Isn't that the point? To prove we can overcome our impulses toward competition and conflict. Outside the station, the pattern of sentinels began to shift. Some remained in their positions around Station Delta, but others started moving outward, spreading across the galaxy. They would find other young species, other civilizations at crucial turning points, and offer them the same choice. The precursor ship transmitted one final message before departing. The true test of advancement is not in what you can take or create or destroy. It is in what you can give, preserve, and nurture. Humanity's compassion has opened a door. Now all must choose whether to walk through it. Sarah felt the weight of that responsibility, but also its rightness. A maintenance worker who had chosen to help an injured being had sparked a galactic revolution, not through force or brilliance, but through simple human kindness. The hard work begins now, Commander Rodriguez said, looking at the departing alien ships. Many were leaving behind representatives, the first step in building a new kind of galactic community. Actually, Sarah smiled, thinking of her repair kit and a chance encounter in space. It began a long time ago. We just didn't know it. In the years that followed, Station Delta became more than humanity's first major foothold in space. It became a symbol of a new way forward, a place where species at all levels of development could come together, learn from each other, and grow without fear of destruction or domination. The Sentinels kept their promise, sharing knowledge at a pace that allowed for true understanding, not just technological advancement. They taught humanity, and through humanity, reminded the galaxy of what it meant to progress with wisdom rather than just power. And sometimes, late at night when the station was quiet, Sarah would don her EVA suit and float in space with her crystalline friend, watching the Earth spin below and the stars wheel above. In those moments, she understood that the greatest adventures weren't about conquering the unknown, but about learning to see it with new eyes, about choosing to help rather than harm, to unite rather than divide. The galaxy was changing, one act of compassion at a time. And humanity, for all its flaws and limitations, was helping to light the way. Looking out at the vast expanse of space, Sarah could see the glinting forms of sentinels in the distance, their crystalline bodies catching starlight as they went about their ancient duty, not as controllers or guardians, but as teachers, guides, and friends to all species who chose to reach for the stars with wisdom in their hearts.